making mistakes that you're making that could be costing you not only grades, but a lot of time that you spend inefficiently. Now, the information you learn in medical school isn't particularly difficult to understand, but what makes it hard is the volume of information that you're expected to comprehend and memorize. What made you successful in college probably won't work now unless obviously you've been watching our videos. So, let's go over some common medical student mistakes and how to fix them. Now, the first one is actually going to class. Most schools now don't require mandatory lecture attendance, and they post their lectures as recordings online. So we recommend watching these at whatever speed you're comfortable with, but try your best to work up to a faster speed instead of going to class. This way you get to save a ton of time by saving the commute to class, avoiding the time filling irrelevant things, tangents and the breaks in the lecture, and it's also tough to focus for hours on end in lecture and breaks aren't in your control. Now, if you can work up to listening to these recordings at a faster speed, you literally spend less time on the same thing you would by going to class. For me, in my first year, I got up to watching these things at 2 times the speed, and in my second year, I actually just read through the presentation slides after I got the hang of what's important and likely to be on the exam, which obviously was even faster than watching the videos. Now, of course, if your school requires going to lecture physically, or if you just enjoy it more, by all means, go ahead. But we recommend this strategy if you're looking to save time and allow yourself to work at your own pace on your own schedule. Now, in line with going to the lecture, the second mistake is passive learning. Just watching a lecture, reading through the slides and textbooks doesn't really mean anything. Anyone can do that. Like we said earlier, the stuff you learn isn't all that conceptually hard, but what makes it challenging is that you have to keep track of all this information and know how to use it in a real life clinical scenario. Now, obviously this ability is going to come over time, so don't feel bad if you can't do it yet, but it's definitely not going to come by passively reading and watching videos about concepts. You need to learn actively and test your knowledge as you go so that you're learning with a purpose. And one way to do this that we recommend is making your own Anki cards as you watch the lectures or read through them. Now, making the cards yourself forces you to actively draw out the important information and put in that effort of synthesizing it into a flashcard. Then you want to let the Anki algorithm do its thing and do your due cards every day. This is called spaced repetition learning, which allows you to see information right when you're likely to forget it. This is how you should be synthesizing and memorizing the information you need to learn. We prefer flashcards through Anki, but if you like notes, then that's also a possible way to go. But just make sure that you're not just passively reading through things, you're actually testing yourself. Now, the next mistake is cramming. It's like drinking water from a fire hose. I'm sure you've heard that analogy before, and that's what people use to describe what learning in medical school is like. Gone are the days where studying by cramming a couple weeks before the exam would work. Well, more like a couple days really in college. There's just way too much information in med school for that to work, and quite honestly, you're only shooting yourself in the foot by doing this. You work so hard to get here and you're using up your 20s and paying all this tuition, you might as well make the most of it and actually learn things. Passing exams and grades are important in medical school, but now this information and the foundations you build here are going to be used to actually save people's lives, so it's not just about school and your grades. You need to make sure that you're setting a good foundation of medical principles, and this is not going to come to you through cramming. Now, we go over how to study and time management in other videos that you can watch, but really it just comes down to watering the seeds every day throughout the semester rather than cramming at the end. You want to set a schedule for yourself and do the daily habits that lead to long-term success. This means doing your lectures and the Anki cards the day you're supposed to do them. Do your Anki cards when they're supposed to be done, and do your practice questions when you're supposed to. It's going to be annoying in the moment and you won't feel like doing it, and sometimes it can feel like, oh, I have 6 weeks till the block ends, but these daily actions are going to save you a ton of stress at the end and allow you to actually learn properly. Now, the next mistake is with memorizing. Anki is a great way to memorize information because it uses spaced repetition like we said, and making your own cards is active. But memorizing alone isn't going to get the job done. Your third year of medical school and beyond, it's about recalling what you know and applying it to a clinical scenario. The way to do this is by applying what you learn and testing yourself. What you can do is practice questions, practice cases, as well as practice exams. Schools usually give practice questions for you, or you can use question packs like UWorld or online MedEd, And as you go through a particular block, schedule out the practice questions for it so you finish the questions about a week prior to the exam. And as you get things wrong, you need to understand why you're making these mistakes and whether it's a problem in the way you're thinking about the question or if it's just a lack of knowledge. This sets the foundation for thinking critically and clinically reasoning your way through problems, which is a skill you're going to need for the rest of your career. Now guys, if you get value from these podcasts and videos, we ask that you please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps us to reach more people and we really appreciate it. Now, last but not least, the next mistake is reviewing. Rereading and re-listening to lectures is a complete waste of time. It falsely makes you think you're being productive, but it does very little for your success. After making your initial Anki cards or notes on the lectures, there's no reason to revisit the original material unless there are knowledge gaps that you need to address or you're approaching the end of the block. As you do practice questions, you're going to notice patterns in what you're getting wrong. And if you see that this is due to a lack of knowledge, by all means go back to the source material and only look at this relevant material or YouTube or Google it. The only other time to go through the source material is at the end of the block as a brief read through before the exam to make sure that you covered everything and that you can brush up on last minute details. So don't fall into the trap of staring at your screen as being something productive. Learn the right way in the first place through active learning and have fun with your free time instead of pretending to be productive staring at your screen. So that's pretty much it, guys. These were 5 major mistakes that we've all made that we see medical students make, so watch out for them and get ahead of them. As always, feel free to reach out to us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.